What's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another video, and today I'm bringing you an update to my Raidraptor deck profile. This is a deck I've been working on in the background. I know it's been a couple of weeks since my last video, but I hope you guys are okay with me taking more time to figure out, decks and actually build them so they don't kind of feel rushed. So let me know down in the comments below if you guys prefer me to take more time between videos in order to actually get a deck properly down before I make a video. I do plan on doing a combo tutorial for this deck because it is a bit complicated on the lines and understanding where to go from start to finish. Now we're going to go ahead and get started with our main deck. It is a 41 card main deck, so it's a little bit bigger than normal, but it's because we do play some Garnets. Starting us off, we have 3 copies of Raidraptor Tribulanius. During the main phase, if it was normal or special summon, you can send a Raidraptor monster from your deck to the graveyard, and then it has a main phase 2 effect. We're never using that, so only ever worry about the during the main phase Foolish Burial effect, because that is your this is your 1-card combo to make a full board, and it's the best 1-card combo. Next, we have 3 copies of Bloom Vulture. Bloom Vulture is really good as a way to start your combo. It's a 1.5 card combo, or it's just an extra body that you can use to put Tribulanius onto the board without using your normal summon. So you have your normal summon later in the turn, and it forces your opponent to use interaction pieces earlier than they need to, and prevents them from actually harming your combo line as much as they would normally. Then we're playing 3 copies of Strangulanius, because Strangulanius is a really good extender. It's probably the best extender in the entire deck. Back on Bloom Vulture. Bloom Vulture says you can, if you control no monsters or all monsters you control are winged beast, you can special summon it and another Raidraptor from your hand. Then has a graveyard effect to target itself and another level 4 winged beast in the graveyard. Or if you control no monsters, you can target it and another level 4 in your graveyard, special summon both of them from the graveyard. You can only use one of the effects per turn, and then it locks you into dark monsters. Strangulanius says if you control a dark monster, you can special summon it from the hand, and then if you have a Dark Xyz monster with a Dark Xyz monster as Xyz material, confusing, I know, but you'll see in the combo tutorial video next week. It can reborn a monster if you have a Dark Xyz with a Dark Xyz as material. Then we're on 3 copies of Noirlanius. This is a card that you can go down to 2 of very, very easily. The only reason why I'm on 3 of it is because it's also a 1-card combo that does almost the exact same thing as Tribulanius. Noirlanius is during the main phase. If it was normal or special summon, you can target a Raidraptor you control and add a target a Raidraptor you control and then add a Raidraptor with a different level from deck to hand from the targeted monster. It can target itself. It's not one other. It is just one Raidraptor. So you can go normal summon Noirlanius and target itself. Add any of your other Raidraptor monsters that aren't level 4 from deck to hand. And then we are also on 2 copies of Fuzzylanius. Fuzzy is really good in pure. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I have a new desk that has an LED strip, and that's where I'm recording at right now. So, trying to get used to the lighting. Anyways, Fuzzylanius has 2 effects. If you control a Raidraptor, you can special summon it from your hand, and if it's sent to the graveyard, it searches another copy of itself. That's the reason why we only play 2, because with Roost specifically, you can put it back into the deck from graveyard and banish, so that way you can always have a Fuzzy in rotation for when you search off a Fuzzy. The only downside, and why I say this deck is really, or why this card is really only good in pure rather than if you splash another engine, is because you're locked into Raidraptors the turn you use either of its effects, and your combo for the most part doesn't utilize Fuzzy but it's just good to have an extender to push through. It's good as an extender to push through interaction. Then we're on the one copy of Raider's Wing. This is a dual purpose card because it is also counted as a Phantom Knights card. Spoiler for the extra deck because, you know, it's a target to send off of Bardiche. However, if it's in your hand or graveyard, you can detach a material from an Xyz you control, special summon it, banish it when it leaves the field, and an Xyz monster summoned with it gains the effect that it cannot be targeted by card effects. We only play one of it because you really only ever want to send it to the graveyard, but there are some niche cases where if you do have it in your hand during the combo, you just summon it, let it get banished, roost, put it back from banish onto the bottom of the deck, and then you make Bardiche with that. Then we're on the one copy of Mimicry Lanius. I was on two of this because I was afraid of bricking on it, but now you don't really, now that I've actually like fully taken the time to sit down and like play the deck constantly, I'm not worried about bricking on this card because if you open it with Bloom Vulture, you still can do the Mimicry line where, you know, you do things and stuff. The Raidraptor combo. And then I'm also on one copy of Heal Eagle and one copy of Pain Lanius. Heal Eagle is literally just a free body that you can put onto your board. And Pain Lanius is what you're searching off of Noir. They're also both targets that you can search off of Noir Lanius, but you're most of the time searching Pain Lanius. Again, something I will address in the combo tutorial video for this deck. Pain Lanius says you can target a Raidraptor you control, take damage equal to its lowest stat between attack and defense, special summon this, and then it becomes the level of the targeted monster. So Pain Lanius is always a level 4 that starts as a level 1. And that is it for the Raidraptor monsters. It's a very big engine requirement for Raidraptors, and there are cuts that you can make to the deck to make it 40 and so on. And we're about to get to another one of those cuts. We're on 3 copies of Roost. This is not one of the cuts that you can make. I feel like 3 Roost in a pure Raidraptor build is mandatory all out. You could make an argument to play 2 if you're playing 40 or as close to 40 as I am. But I feel like being able to see it is more important because Roost isn't only recursion, it's also search. It also has a search on it where if a Raidraptor is summoned from the extra deck, summoned from the extra deck to your field specifically. So if somehow you manage to summon an opponent's Raidraptor monster from their extra deck to your side of the field, you can activate this card. And then it also has an effect where you can target 3 Raidraptors in your graveyard or in your banish, put them onto the bottom of the deck, and draw a card. This thing is really, really strong. This is a really good recursion piece. It gives you grind, and so on and so forth. Now we get into the rank up magics, where we have the cut that I was referring to. I'm on 2 copies of Phantom Knights rank up magic force. You can play one of this. I have another build of Raidraptor that I've been testing where I am only playing one of this because this is another card that you can set off. This is one of your targets to set from the deck off of Bardiche because, well, it sets Phantom Knights spell traps. Then we're also on 1 copy of Raidraptor's Force. Or Rise Rank Up Magic Raidraptor's Force because you only need the one of it because you search it during the combo, and if you don't search it during the combo because you open with it, the card that searches it has a flex point. Well, no, because the way you're grabbing that is the Link monster. This one is the one that is a flex point. We have Skip Force. Skip Force is the flex point where if you open with Skip Force, the monster we're using to search Skip Force specifically can do something else that actually gets you into Roost. So if you open Skip Force, it's not a hard garnet. The only like hard garnets are maybe like something that's not within the Raidraptor part of the deck. And then for the traps, we're on 1 Raidraptor's Phantom Knight's Claw. This is another card you can set off of Bardiche. So if you open with the rum, but not the counter trap, you can Bardiche for the counter trap. This is a monster negate by detaching a material, and if the material you detached was an Xyz Dragon, a Phantom Knight, or the Phantom Knights, or a Raidraptor, the monster you detach a material from gains attack equal to the monster whose effect you negated. Really, really good searchable monster negate. Then we have 1 copy of Glorious Bright. This is your Omni Negate. This is another card that if you have Roost and Skip Force access, you grab this. And if you don't have, or if you have Roost but not Skip Force, Roost grabs this from the deck because it searches a Raidraptor spell trap. And that is it. Oh, and this is an Omni. It starts out as a monster negate, but if you have a Dark Xyz with a Dark... Oh, if you have a Raidraptor Xyz... if you have a Raidraptor Xyz, you can just negate any card negate the effects of any face-up card on the board. And that is it for the Raidraptor portion of the deck. Now we move on to the rest of the deck, which is generic cards and hand traps. Starting us off with just the regular generic cards, because you guys know me, I separate my generic cards from the hand traps, even though they're both generic-based cards. I just like to section it this way for not really continuity, but for OCD reasons, I guess. I don't know. We're on the 1 copy of Zephyros because, he's an honorary Raidraptor. You don't need to play Zephyros. He's another cut that... Oh, excuse me. He's another cut that you can make, but he's really good, so I would recommend keeping him in the deck just simply off the fact that he's a free level 4 body. He is a once per duel, so you can side him out if need be, but you can always keep him in just in case. Then I'm on 2 copies of Crossout. I feel like combo installation is really good, which is why we're on the double Crossout. 1 called by, you definitely don't need to play Crossout. You can pull Crossout out for more hand traps if you want, because like I said, this is a 41 card deck, and I'm running probably the bare minimum amount of hand traps that you can run. And then lastly, we're on 1 copy of Foolish Burial, because funnily enough, Foolish Burial is a 1 card combo. And with that, we're done with the generic non-hand trap cards. Now we move on to the generic hand traps, starting us off with 3 copies of Ash Blossom. You gotta be playing Ash Blossom. Really good card. Then we're also on 2 copies of Effect Veiler, because Veiler is still really good. I couldn't find room for the 3rd one, but you can definitely find room for the 3rd one, because I'm also only on 1 copy of Nibiru in the main deck. It's kind of spoiler going on, kind of a spoiler for the side deck. The 3rd Veiler is there if you want to move this Nibiru from the main deck into the side deck and play 3 Ash, 3 Veiler, and 3 Imperm. That's completely up to you. The reason why I am main decking a single copy of Nibiru is because Nibiru is one of those cards that can hurt this deck if timed properly. However, the typical combo line prevents that from really being the case. And with that, that is the main deck done. We're going to move on to the extra deck. Starting us off in the extra deck, we have not 1, but 2 Raidraptor 4-Strikes, just a soft once per turn, detach, add a level 4 Darkwing Beast monster from your deck to your hand. Generic requires two level 4 monsters to be made. So if you wanted to find the room to run Parallel Exceed, you can find the room to run Parallel Exceed. But that's also diluting the deck a little too much in my opinion. Then I'm only on the 1 copy of Raiders Knight. I was originally on 2 of this, but with Roost, you can put this back from Banish or Graveyard, and then you can summon it to be able to rank up into whatever is a single rank above it, which starting that train off is going to be our part of the combo, Brave Strix, or Brave Stree. I'm sorry, I've been saying Strix this whole time. I'm pretty sure it's Stree, just like how it's Grand Prix. I feel like it's Stree. So we have Brave Stree that has an effect if it's a material. If it's a material, the monster with it as material gains the effect that it gains attack equal to its rank times 100. So if this is on the rank 13, it gains 1300 attack, which in a format where Yubel still exists isn't great. Like, Yubel is one of the worst matchups for this deck. It's awful because you put big bungus beaters on the board, and Yubel looks at you and laughs as they activate Nightmare Pain and then makes you hit yourself to death. Brave Strix has two other effects where you can only use one of its two effects per turn, and they're both separate effects. So one of its effects is you can detach a material to set a Raidraptor spell trap from the deck to your side of the field. So it can grab Glorious Bright, it can grab the Rise Rank Up Magic because it's a Raidraptor spell trap. It can grab Roost from the deck and just set it to your field. So that avoids Ash. Unfortunately, the other effect that is more important is if it says once per turn if this card has if this card is a Raidraptor or a Winged Beast as material, detach a material, add a rank up magic spell from deck to hand. And I believe since it is worded in that specific way, you can activate that effect, choose to detach a Winged Beast monster, even if it's the only Winged Beast monster, and still resolve the effect fully because it checks for the Winged Beast monster before paying costs to be able to search. So I believe it's an activation requirement to have a Winged Beast as material rather than an actual cost. Leave that up to your head judge if you do have questions about that ruling. And then next we have the one Arsenal Falcon. Probably the one card in Raidraptor that I think could 100% be banned if Raidraptor ever did take off. And then we're also on one Satellite Cannon Falcon specifically for... Oh, wait, actually, let's talk about what Arsenal Falcon does before I go into Satellite Cannon Falcon and why it's specifically for the Labyrinth matchup. Arsenal Falcon has the effect where you can detach a material from it to special summon a Raidraptor from the deck. Cool, fine, whatever. And then if it leaves the field while it has material, you summon a Raidraptor Xyz from your extra deck and attach this to it as a material. The reason why that is important is because this is typically your 5th summon. Usually Arsenal Falcon is summon number 5 in your combo. And then if it's not summon number 5, either you had to change up the sequence and whatnot, or you managed to get through and get to this as summon number 5, and now your opponent's in a weird position. Do they Nibiru you before you use the effect, or do they wait? Because no matter what, you're either putting this in the graveyard by yourself, by your own hand, or your opponent's going to do it for you, and you're going to get an unaffected monster out of your extra deck. So that's why I really like Raidraptor, specifically because of Arsenal Falcon having that level of utility that it has, where it makes Nibiru feel bad because of it being your 5th summon more often than not. Then we're on one copy of Satellite Cannon Falcon. Again, I was saying this was specifically for the Labyrinth matchup. It's specifically for any back row based matchup because it can, on summon, it's a heavy storm that can't be responded to. And then it has a quick effect to target a face-up monster your opponent controls and make it lose 800 attack for each Raidraptor you control. That effect's not really important. It's literally the oh, I'm gonna be summoned now, and oh, would you look at that? Now your back row doesn't exist anymore. If you can get to a state where you can summon this, you can summon this off of the Phantom Knight's rank of magic spell. You can summon this off of the Rise rank of magic spell as well. I am not running a 6 because the 6 would be between Brave and Arsenal. I was in testing considering one of the 6s because it's not horrible, and it's the retrain of Revolution Falcon. I just personally did not feel like digging up my copy of the Revolution Falcon Air Raid that I own, because I would be playing that instead of this. And for the other build of Raidraptor that I've been working on, I'm still working out some kinks with it. But I am running Air Raid just because it is an easier card to put on board as opposed to Satellite Cannon Falcon. And then we're on one of our big bunguses, Ultimate Falcon. You could run this at 2 instead of running the Satellite Cannon Falcon. You could definitely run a second Ultimate Falcon, but I feel like 2 Ultimate Falcon is a bit much. Let me move this up like that. There we go. That looks a bit better. So yeah, I'm only running the 1 Ultimate Falcon for now. But like I said, 2 is more than 2 would be more than enough, and 3 is just overkill at that point. However, on the other side of the spectrum, we have 2 copies of Rising Rebellion Falcon. Here, let me move these over here. There we go. That looks better. Rising Rebellion Falcon on summon nukes your opponent's board, and then if it has 3 uniquely named Raidraptors as material, or Raidraptor Xyz monsters as material, you burn your opponent for however much the original attack of everything you just murdered had. Then you can detach 3 materials to target a Raidraptor in your graveyard and add the effect onto this. It doesn't change its effect, it literally just gains the effect of a Raidraptor monster in the graveyard. So if you gain the effect of Force Strix or whatever, your opponent can't ash that. They can't ash anything. They can't imperm this because it's unaffected. Both of these are your unaffected big bungus beaters, and they just do a lot of damage if you can actually get through for damage. Then I'm also on 2 copies of Y-Strix. This is another one that this is one I'm on the fence about playing 2 of because of Roost specifically. However, I do like running 2 of it just in case. And the reason why is because on summon, it summons a level 4 Darkwing Beast from the deck, which is how you're getting Zephyros out of the deck, which is why Zephyros is kind of a hard garnet. And then if you activate a a Dark Xyz monster, it's either a Dark Xyz monster's effect or a Raidraptor Xyz monster's effect. You can set a rank up magic spell from the deck directly. Each effect is a once per turn, and like I said, oh, and the monster you summon off this has its effects negated, and it cannot be used as linked material. So you can't just go Y-Strix into our next card, Bardiche, because it doesn't work like that. And Bardiche, if you guys don't know, served a little bit of time on the ban list because he is a very broken boy. Quick effect: send a Phantom Knights monster from deck to graveyard to set the Phantom Knights spell trap from your deck. I addressed this earlier. Then it has another effect: if a Dark Xyz monster is summoned to a zone it points to, you can pop a card on the field. You target it, you do target, it is target and pop. Not to misconstrue my words and such. But yes, Bardiche is layered interaction in this particular deck, because we're also running 1 copy of Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon, which, you know, you're not ever using this thing's effect except in the very niche scenario where you're made to go second and you can, for some reason you chose to make this over making Raiders Night and making our next, well, not our next monster, the monster after our next one, because this is actually the card you're summoning off of the rank up the Phantom Knights rank up magic that I'm playing. This is a monster negate, and the way I have it is you summon this to a zone that Bardiche points to. Bardiche pops a monster or pops a card your opponent controls, and then this is a monster effect. So this is technically a on summon pop a card and then a quick effect monster negate. And then last we were on another guy that hits really hard because you should be summoning this off of Raider's Knight if you're going second, because this thing just gets huge. Detaches a material from itself in order to become chunky. Gains attack equal to the combined levels and ranks of all monsters on the field times 100, and then this is the only thing that can attack. Yeah. So that is it for the extra deck as well. We're going to move on to the side deck, and I know this deck profile is getting long, but this deck is also one that people are aware of, but not a lot of people know it to specific degrees, which is why I'm kind of going into as much detail as I have been. So starting us off in the side deck, we have 2 copies of Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill. I feel like Mourner is really good, especially if you cannot afford Mulcharmy. You could also cut this out for Droll and Lockbird to droll your opponent. However, Droll does hurt us as well, so we can always use as Droll as a crossout target. This is another one that is also, in theory, a crossout target, because any hand traps kind of do hurt the strategy, but we have ways to play through them because 90% of our monsters are extenders. Then we have the second copy of Nibiru. This is why I was talking about moving the Nibiru from the main deck to the side deck, because then we would have 2 Nibiru here instead of 1 Nibiru, 1 Effect Veiler for the third Effect Veiler, just in case if it's a matchup where Nibiru isn't going to be relevant, or you think your opponent isn't playing Nibiru. But obviously, if you think your opponent is playing Nibiru or Nibiru becomes relevant within the matchup, you board into the second Nibiru over, say, Zephyros or anything like that. Then we also have 2 copies of Druis Worm and 1 copy of Magnamut. These are free link material, as well as good disruption for Ubel, Fiendsmith Snake Eye, or Fiendsmith Ubel, Fiendsmith Snake Eye. They also can hit some of the Azamina fusion monsters out of the graveyard. Really good right now, really solid. These are also crossout targets. Yay, we love hearing that phrase, the fact that this deck needs a million crossout targets. Next, I'm on 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. One of these would be a Thrust instead of a Talent. This ultra rare copy back here would be my Thrust instead of a Talent because, Thrust is just better. It finds you a lot of cards within this deck. It actually gets you into your rank up magic. It gets you into your Skip Force. It gets you into Glorious Bright. It gets you into just about anything you would need. It gets you into Foolish Burial, funnily enough, which I already said earlier. Foolish Burial is a 1-card combo.
He's dead ass getting points from letting me
So,
struggle.
if you have a Thrust, I would recommend playing a Thrust instead of the second Talents. And then I'm on 3 copies of Dimensional Barrier and 3 copies of Evenly Matched. Because even though this deck can OTK, sometimes it's better to just set up your board as opposed to actually killing. Well, I say sometimes it's better to set up your board instead of killing your opponent. With how the game is looking to go with Azamina specifically, Evenly Matched is a way to bait out the Sylvia from Azamina. It's also a good way to bait out any form of Omni negation. It's also decent into back row matchups. And as we saw, Yassine got 9 for 1 by Evenly Matched. So, we have seen how good Evenly Matched is. Even though that was before Azamina, I still think this card is really worth playing no matter what deck you are choosing to play. So I'm going to pause the recording real quick. I'm going to fix everything, rearrange it, and we'll be right back for the outro. And with that, we have concluded our Raidraptor deck profile. I will admit this deck is not great in the current format. It's not a good deck by any means with how the format is looking. It's a fun one to pick up, and it could be really good later. Unfortunately, we have other strategies coming up that are also going to make this deck struggle, i.e. Ryzeal and Malice, or yeah, Malice, however you want to pronounce it, in the deck builder set coming out in December, which both of those are decks I'm keeping my eye out on because I do have an interest in both of them, and the reason why I am addressing those is because Ryzeal is looking to be a really big meta contender, just simply off the back of it is a hell of a combo deck that has some complicated lines. But not only that, Malice is a new shifter deck that we're going to be getting. And we know how the Yu-Gi-Oh community feels about shifter decks. So with that, I'm going to end the video here, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.